Oh, hamstring. Sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans, welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brennaman.
Good morning, and a pleasant good Wednesday morning to each and every one of you. Another beautiful sunny day here in Hamilton, Ohio, boys.
It is.
I mean, it's like clockwork.
You wake up, the sun shines.
It's like choking on a bone. It doesn't make any single difference. You show up here in Hamilton, Ohio, and it is a beautiful day. We're not going there.
Nope.
You already did.
No, we're not. We're not fully going there. I'm not getting involved in the legal process in some of the proceedings in Hamilton, Ohio, and certainly not the Ohio Supreme Court. My good friend Joe Dieters, I'm not doing it. We welcome you to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Tom Brennaman. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 to 12 p.m. You can find us on YouTube, Chatterbox Sports page. We're broadcasting live on Twitter at Cbox Sports. And if you'd rather download us in podcast form, by all means, just search Off the Bench with Tom Brennaman, and you're dialed in. We'll get to Marty Brennaman here in just a couple of minutes. We talked a lot about the Bengals facing three backup quarterbacks while starting their own backup quarterback over the final 4 weeks of the regular season. In this weekend's case, they will face the backup to the backup. Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell announced yesterday that Nick Mullins will get the start over Joshua Dobbs in that matchup at Paycor Stadium. That is Saturday, don't forget, at 1 o'clock. Now, Mullins has been a part-time starter in 2018, again 2020 with the 49ers. He replaced the ineffective Dobbs last week in a dreadful 3-0 win over the Raiders, but they won the game. O'Connell added that star receiver Justin Jefferson might play this weekend after suffering a chest injury last week. As for the Bengals, Ja'Marr Chase showed up on the injury report yesterday. Something about a tender ankle. No word on how serious that might be. How about the bombshell report by Patriots insider Tom Curran last night? He claims New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft has already made the decision to part ways with his six-time Super Bowl winning head coach Bill Belichick at season's end. Curran on NBC in Boston said that decision was made after the team's game in Germany weeks ago. Belichick has won just one playoff game since Tom Brady left as his starting quarterback 3 seasons ago. College hoops, UC Bearcats, it was sluggish in the first half, no doubt against Bryant, but they got it going in the second half, outscoring the visitors 55-26 in the second half, en route to an 85-53 win. C.J. Frederick was able to find the basket last night after not finding it at all against Xavier. He led 5 players in double figures with 14. Aziz Badego had a double-double, 12 and 17. The Bearcats take on Dayton this Saturday. That game is at Heritage Bank Arena. Tip-off Saturday night, 7 p.m. On the pro side, does it ever end with Draymond Green? I mean, does it ever end? He was ejected from last night's loss to Phoenix after receiving a flagrant foul 2 after hitting an opponent in the head. It looked like he punched him. He says he was trying to flop. I don't know. It's his third ejection in a game this season, and the league is now considering a lengthy suspension for Draymond Green. And, of course, the Warriors, they just enable. That's what Steve Kerr does. Enable. In baseball, the Reds introduced recent addition Jeimer Candelario at a press conference yesterday at the old ballpark. Marty Brennaman will have something to say about that around the corner. What's going on with the Kansas City Royals? They inked former reliever turned starter Seth Lugo, 3 years, $45 million. He pitched well for San Diego in 26 starts last year. Kansas City also signed reliever Chris Stratton, a one-year deal. He split last season between St. Louis and Texas. And the San Francisco Giants signed Korean League star Young-Ho Lee to a 7-year, $114 million contract. The 25-year-old outfielder is expected to bat near the top of the batting order. Haven't seen a lot of players come over from Korea and have great success, but we'll see how that plays out. All right, without further ado, we welcome in to talk about all that is baseball and life in general, the Hall of Famer, Marty Brennaman. Good morning, Dad. How's everything going today out there in Anderson Township, Ohio? Is it a beautiful sunny day like it is in Hamilton, Ohio?
Without any question, it's a lovely, lovely day. The temperature is going to be on the climb in the next 2 or 3 days, plus 50 degrees. And at this time of year, that's always a good thing. So I'm all smiles today until Elliot or somebody else pisses me off.
Even if Elliot isn't around, would you put a time clock on how long it takes in most of your days for somebody to really get under your skin? I mean, whether it's your wife, whether it's the dog, the cat, somebody else. Generally, how long after you get up does it take before somebody gets under your skin?
The older I get, the more laid back I get. I don't get, if I want to vent my spleen, I'll do it on Twitter. But I don't really get all bent out of shape too often. When I do, it's legendary. But I'm just not interested in that kind of stuff anymore.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll keep that in mind during the holidays. We'll see how that plays.
Please do. Yes.
So Jeimer Candelario.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the numbers on this guy. I mean, look, the Reds know what they're getting. They're getting a solid hitter. He's been a productive player. He's never been a great player, but he's a very good player. I thought it was a good sign for the team, even with a whole sort of backlog of infielders on this team. But it seems like it makes sense and a step in the right direction. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's a great signing, Tom. I think the guy hit 22 home runs last year. I think he knocked in 80 runs with the Tigers, batted 255, 256, which is a little bit above average. But, I don't think they signed Candelario thinking they were going to get a high average hitter. That's not what they wanted. They were looking for a guy who could switch it and could hit for power and drive in runs. And I think they got that. And a guy that's versatile enough to play both of the corner infield positions plus DH, which I think he'll probably do quite a bit of. But again, I think it muddies the water a bit. People have already said, well, you got enough infielders. Who's the odd man out? Well, on the heels of that comes a story that Jonathan India has told the club that he would be willing to go out and take reps in the outfield during spring training with an eye toward playing out there during the regular season. That's fine. But then it's a domino effect no matter which way you go, whether you keep him on the infield. Whose spot is he taking on a given day or days? If you put him in the outfield, Jonathan India, whose spot is he taking? They got some problems, I think, with too many good players. And I didn't know that in our lifetime we'd ever be able to say that again. But at least based on the rookie years of a lot of very talented young people, I don't know what their thinking is unless they know that they're going to make a trade involving some people who we may have seen quite a bit of last year, whoever that might have been. But I don't know how you're going to keep everybody happy with the makeup of this roster as it stands right now, as far as infielders and outfielders are concerned.
It is really, don't you think though, Dad, and look, you've seen, a billion of these guys come and go. And obviously if you're a Reds fan or whatever team it is you root for, when you bring up your young players, especially in a market size like Cincinnati, you want to see them all do well and play well. But Nick Kroll has been extremely upfront about saying, hey, look, there were a lot of good things we saw from all of these guys to varying degrees, some more consistent, McLean and Steer, than others, Strand, De La Cruz, etc. But that you can't count on these guys coming back and being great their second year.
Well, I've said that for the last 2 weeks. You don't want to be a doomsayer, but at the same time, you got to look at the entire picture. The term sophomore jinx came out of baseball because of the so many over the years, and this is a term that's been around as long as you've been alive, certainly, and probably for most of my life. And that is based on young guys coming out of the minor leagues and playing extremely well in their first season. And then for whatever the reason, it doesn't happen in the offseason. I mean, in the second year. Now, that doesn't apply to everyone, as we well know. But at the same time, I think when you're trying to determine how good this team can be, you have to take into effect that maybe some of these kids that we got all excited about last year with good reason don't match up in their second year in the big leagues to what they did in the first year. And if that should happen to a number of them, then this ball club could have some problems. And I mean, you have to face facts. People say, well, you're a jerk because once again, you're negative about this club. No, I'm not. I'm just looking at the realistic way that this whole situation should be looked at. And, hopefully all these guys will perform up to the standard that they performed last year. And with the addition of Candelario and the improvement in the bullpen, which I think has got a chance to be big, and they come up with that starting pitcher that we've heard ad nauseum for the last month and a half that so far has not materialized, this club will be very, very good.
You know, when you talk about those young players, I mean, I think the best example is one that is sitting right there before your very eyes. I think if you look at this time last year, everybody was talking about the quote-unquote big three, right, in the starting rotation. Hunter Green,
right.
Another year where you see flashes of brilliance, you see mediocrity, you see flat-out bad. Another trip on the injured list for a couple of months. Lodolo basically doesn't pitch the whole year. Ashcraft starts like wildfire, goes 2 months, he can't get anybody out, gets hurt, comes back, pitches well, hurt again. And then last year, the two guys everybody talked about being the best offensive players, the cornerstones of the franchise, Stevenson and India. Neither one of them had particularly good years. So, I mean, I think it's right there in front of Reds fans where, I think a lot of them were able to say, and now that I think back to that, I remember that, yeah, that's probably right.
Right.
And
well, yeah, I'll tell you something.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. Please continue.
No, I was going to say, and I don't know whether you all saw this or not, but I think anybody connected or as a fan or whatever with the game of baseball is aware of the website Fangraphs. It's an analytically based website. They listed the win totals that they are predicting from 1 to 30 the other day, and they posted it on Twitter. They had the Reds winning 77 games in 2024. Now, what they base that on, I have no idea because I'm not tuned into analytics. But that's what they had, 77 wins and 85 losses for the 2024 season.
Boy, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I wasn't aware of that. That's really, really, really interesting on the heels of having a plus 500 year last year.
That's right.
It makes me, it's got to be a combination of, they're not sold on the starters or at least the health of the starters in terms of the rotation. Right. And obviously they're not sure what guys are going to do in their second year. And we'll see how that whole thing plays out. I'm sure this time last year they certainly weren't predicting the Reds to win 82 games or whatever it was. So,
no, they weren't.
So hopefully they're going to be wrong again. I want to shift gears to a minute. You're starting to see, you brought it up, you touched on it a second ago about the deal we keep hearing about that could be coming for a starting pitcher. Ken Rosenthal is reporting this morning the Dodgers are looking to make that Glasnow trade happen.
Right.
Haven't heard anything on the Reds front. Not that tells you Nick Krall isn't behind the scenes wheeling and dealing. But, are you walking that fine line between what we just talked about a minute ago of moving some younger players, right, to go get that starting pitcher? Are you walking that fine line of, boy, if we trade the wrong ones? I mean, you can't go back and remake a deal. But, John Sherholtz used to say all the time, you better know your players better than other people know your players.
Yeah, I saw the Glasnow thing, and that's never concerned me. I wouldn't have him on a bet. I think his track record from a physical standpoint has been very, very, very questionable. He has trouble staying healthy and staying in uniform. And I'm sure, and I know he's a very talented kid without any question. But at the same time, him going to L.A. would not bother me insofar as saying, well, that's one less pitcher that the Reds have a shot at. I think there's still more out there. You know, you see Shane Bieber's name. You've seen Michael Walker's name mentioned, who I've always been a big fan of as long as he's healthy. So I don't believe that Nick Krall is going to open the 2024 season as president of baseball operations without making a deal of a pitcher. And I don't know that, you know, when you're blessed with the kind of talent in abundance, young talent that he has, I don't know that you could be concerned about. Well, you know, I'm concerned about how these guys may play somewhere else. I mean, if you're going to have cold feet, then you're not going to be able to pull the trigger on a deal that may or may not be beneficial to your club. But I think the fans are now have a very high level of expectation relative to this team getting a veteran pitcher to go with whoever the four youngsters will be to join him in that rotation, if in fact it ever happens.
Yeah. I want to move to the Ohtani deal. Not so much that they gave him a 10-year contract for $700 million, which was roughly $250 million more than what was the highest paid contract to Mike Trout. And then it comes out, which I think made bigger news in the actual signing itself, is the way that contract is structured. And that is he's only going to make, I was at your house the other night, we were talking about this, $2 million a year for each of the next 10 years, and then they owe him $680 million for the years 2034 to 2043. This just can't be. You know, again, I go back to Ken Rosenthal. I've never understood why these writers celebrate these contracts as if they're signing them on their own. I love Ken Rosenthal, but I've never understood why the press bangs the drum all the time for these players getting these huge deals. And then Ken followed that up with saying, this is a good deal for baseball. How in the world is this a good deal for baseball and for the quote-unquote little guy out there? Maybe nobody cares about the little guy. They do around here.
Well, you know what? I'm not as disappointed with his comments as you appear to be. I think he makes some very valid points.
Yeah.
When people start screaming the haves and the have-nots, how many times in the last 10 or 12 years have the haves won a world championship, as opposed to some other clubs that are lesser lights in terms of how much money they're going to spend? I don't think Dodgers are the best recent example of that as far as 2023 is concerned. The Yankees. So I don't, and I understand exactly where the other side is coming from, because it certainly points up the imbalance, if you will, of what goes on in Major League Baseball, and the guys that will spend whatever they need to without any concern at all about the bottom line to try and put a team that's capable of getting to the postseason and then winning a world championship. The Ohtani deal is in excess, I think, of what anybody ever dreamed about, obviously. And I think part of the thing is the writers extol it and write about it because they finally got something to write about. I don't know that they all believe that it's for the good of the game, but I think they love to write about it because he gives them something to write about. This ain't the best time in the year to be writing, and some of the crap I read are very obviously articles that don't hold any merit at all, but the guy said, well, you know what, I don't have anything to write.
Yeah.
I'll write about this. So I don't put any stock in all that crap.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not sitting here beating up Ken Rosenthal because I think the guy does a phenomenal job and has for a long, long time. I just don't, the arguments he posted in that column in The Athletic, yeah, you're right. There were some viable points in there. But, it just seems to me, obviously it's according to the rules. You can get away with it. We saw this really for the first time in football with the 49ers and the Cowboys many, many years ago about ways to maneuver around the salary cap with signing bonuses and, all this kind of thing. I just, I don't know. Does it guarantee the Dodgers are going to win? No, it doesn't guarantee the Dodgers are going to win. But what it does guarantee is that when you have Shohei on the books for $2 million, it guarantees two things. You can go spend all the money you want to spend on other players to get even better. And it also circumvents a luxury tax, which was put in there for a reason that would keep the haves from always dominating the have-nots. Because the have-nots might get to the playoffs, and they might even get to the World Series, as we saw this year with Arizona. But at the end of the day, the big money team is winning this thing every single year outside of Kansas City nearly 10 years ago.
Well, it is what it is. It's not going to stop because the Reds, not the Reds, but the game itself has evolved into something that from an economic standpoint is not very, very attractive. I would recommend to people, and I've been looking for a spot to do this, there is a book entitled The Game. And it's written by a guy that I've never heard of him. His last name is spelled Pessah, John Pessah. I guess that's how you pronounce it. He has earlier written a book about Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. So he's been involved with sports. He's written about athletes. This book is basically covers a period of the decade of the 90s with emphasis on Bud Selig, George Steinbrenner, Donald Fear, and I want to tell you what, it is a sensational book. And not just a good book, a sensational book. It's very, very long. It's inside stuff, most of which people have never, ever been privy to, about Bud and how little money he had when he owned the Brewers early. How he politicked to build a new ballpark in Milwaukee, but the mayor wanted it downtown, and then Steinbrenner and his tirades with his general managers, and it's just an outstanding book, and it will point up going through the strike of 1994. While going into the possibility that the owners would use replacement players. It's a great book. I would recommend it to anybody. And when you read it, you get a pretty good feel for, the relationship between the union and ownership. Bud became commissioner. He succeeded Fay Vincent. That's covered in the book. Donald Fear, who this writer claims existed because he had an incredible hatred of Major League Baseball ownership. And to beat them was the most wonderful thing in his entire life. It's a good book. I recommend it. The Game.
The Game. Okay. I mean, that sounds like it. And you were telling me the other night, you were just starting into the chapter about, the whole PEDs thing and where that all kind of got going when baseball was quote unquote reborn during that home run chase in '98 between Sosa and McGuire under the watch of Bud Selig.
Yeah, and I'm going to be interested to get really into that because I've often felt that everybody knew what was going on. But in that never-to-be-forgotten season when the race went one-on-one between Sammy and McGuire, I think baseball turned its back to it. At least the commissioner did. And I made that statement some years ago, and he got upset with me for saying it. I still believe it, and I'll believe it till I go to my grave unless I read something in this book written by this guy that makes me think otherwise. But it's a hell of a book. I recommend it to any baseball fan.
Okay, anything else on your mind before we start bouncing around in the studio here today? Oh, okay, you came prepared today.
How about the Al Michaels situation?
Well, what are your thoughts on? For those of you that don't know, Al Michaels, of course, legendary play-by-play announcer in every sport. You replaced Al Michaels here in Cincinnati in 1974 when he left here to go to the Giants. But it came out yesterday, and apparently in a story in the New York Post, he was surprised when the author of this story, the writer of this story, called Al Michaels to ask his reaction to not being in the postseason roster of NBC, even though he doesn't work there anymore. That was kind of built into a contract. And that they're going with Noah Eagle, the son of Ian Eagle, as the second team of their two postseason games. No Al Michaels. Your thoughts?
Well, Al and I have been friends for a long time, and Al had a reputation early on of being tough to work with. I've always got along well with him. I I spent time with him at Vin Scully's funeral back last year, and I have. There's no question he's one of the greatest play-by-play guys who's ever lived. I mean, that's open and shut. But I just wonder, Tom. He and Tony Dungy were criticized for, quote, low-energy performances in a couple of games that they did. Al blew it off. I don't know whether or not that has come into play, but what I think it does is, and he and I've talked about it because I kid him all the time about, why the hell don't you retire? You've got more money than 3 third world nations. I mean, you got more money than anybody could ever possibly imagine. And, his answer was, I still enjoy what I'm doing. Well,
yeah.
Sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case, but it certainly could have come into play. That the powers that be took into account, and maybe they thought differently of those low energy telecasts that he and Dungy had, and looked at it in a different way that Al did. And I just think whether or not it's an example, it sure makes me think that when you work a long time at whatever level you work at, especially in our business, you got to know when to retire. You got to know when to get out when you're still on top of your game. And I just wonder if some of these people that pull the plug on other guys look at this situation and saying, he's not what he used to be. I'm 81. Al's got to be 77, maybe. He's 3 or 4 or 5 years younger than me. So I don't know. I think it's unfortunate that it comes to this, especially from one of the truly greats in the history of the business. But sometimes, you put yourself in a position where because of your age, and nobody will ever admit to that, but because of your age, people are looking at you with a little bit more scrutiny than they otherwise would.
Well, and what they're doing is, and look, I was a beneficiary of this going all the way back to 1994 when the Fox network just showed up literally out of nowhere and got Madden and Summerall and Stockton and Millen and then a bunch of young guys and Joe Buck and Kenny Albert and me and Kevin Harlan as the original, play-by-play group for the NFL on Fox. NBC is going really, really young with a lot of inexperience. And as it plays out, you look back then, I remember Jim Lampley, your old friend, North Carolina guy, saying at the time in the newspaper when Fox hired me and Buck and Harlan and Albert, these guys, give me a break. They're all young. They'll never get it done. This is ridiculous. Our lineup is experienced, all that kind of thing. Well, Fox, in hindsight, it wasn't a bad move hiring that quartet of guys. All of them have various levels to success. Nobody comes close to Joe Buck as far as events are concerned. But, now they're going with Noah Eagle, who's Ian Eagle's son. He's not had any NFL experience whatsoever. And, man, there's a lot of pressure when you walk into that. NBC, in fact, has done that with a couple of guys, with Noah Eagle. Chris Collinsworth's son, Jack Collinsworth, has taken a lot of heat this year on the Notre Dame telecast. So, I hope that they'll stand by those young guys and not throw them to the wolves. Back then, there wasn't social media like there is now, judging every single word that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest factors of all that people tend to overlook when they start talking about situations like this, is that the criticism is a millionfold over it used to be because of social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever the case might be. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out.
All right, it's that time again.
Okay.
As we like to do every single week. We like to bounce around the room a little bit with Elliot, with Reed, and with Casey. Casey, I want to start with you this week. We never start with you because you are the brains of this whole operation. Do you have anything for Mr. Brennaman?
I actually do. I actually do have something for him. There's a huge matchup for your Carolina Tar Heels. Cal! And then right after that, Oklahoma. You got a big week of college basketball, don't you?
Yeah. They lost a tough game to Connecticut. They played very poorly at the outset of the second half, and then they got their game together a little bit, ended up losing to the number one team in the nation by 11 points. Thank goodness they're not playing at Rupp Arena. That game is being played in Atlanta. And I think that game's a toss-up. I think Carolina can beat Kentucky just like I think Kentucky can beat Carolina. And then Oklahoma, I don't know that this might come back to bite me, but I don't think that the Oklahoma game is as much of a concern in terms of wins and losses as the Kentucky game is, even though Oklahoma, I think, is ranked 11th in the country. I found it interesting that despite the loss to Connecticut, Carolina began that game number 9 in the country, and they are still number 9 in the country. So in the eyes of the so-called experts, and I put that word in quotes, their performance against Connecticut, or at least the periods of that game, indicated that Carolina can play and pretty much play with anybody. I think Carolina's the kind of team that's going to get better and better and better as the season goes along. But conversely, I think Kentucky is going to do the same thing. I think they've got a chance at having one of the big men who have not played all year long available to play in the game come Saturday down in Atlanta. So that will be an addition to their roster that they've not had the privilege of having since the season began.
Cal will have them ready to go, though. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Cal will have them ready to go. All right, yeah. Reed, how about you? Anything on your mind today for Marty Brennaman?
Yeah, the only thing I really have on my mind here in the season of giving, the holiday season, was everyone has their favorite holiday traditions. And I was just wondering, when you were raising Tom and raising your family, what was your favorite holiday tradition back in the day?
I don't think we had a holiday tradition. Tom may remember something I don't. There's no real tradition. I think the older you get, in my case, it's more important to be around family than maybe it was earlier in my life when I was trying to make inroads toward a career. For instance, a Thanksgiving get-together we had in Chicago with Tom and his family and Dawn and her family. That was important to me. And then Tom and his family and Ashley, my youngest, and her family are coming over next week for a Brennaman Christmas get-together, probably about a week ahead of Christmas because people are going out here and there. So I think that the togetherness aspect of it is more important for me now than it is any particular tradition that has been carried on year after year after year.
All right, well, that leads us to the UC man.
Yeah.
That would be Elliot Rearing. Dad, say good morning to Elliot.
Elliot.
Please.
Hi, Marty. How you doing?
I'm good, Elliot. How are you?
Very good. Listen, these guys were asking kind of sillier questions. I'm gonna try to be more serious with you, if that's okay.
Whatever you want.
Okay. So I didn't know if you know this, Marty. You're very well. You know everything about Cincinnati, all the goings and happenings here in the tri-state area. I was wondering if you heard about my retirement, because I'm also retired, Marty.
Retired from what?
It's a good question. I'm glad you asked it.
Elliot.
Yeah.
You got to work before you can retire.
Yeah, and Marty, you could argue.
What the hell are you retired from?
I'm retired from gambling, Marty. And I would argue that nobody has worked harder than me. Nobody.
That's a very good point. I'll back up Elliot on this one. He has worked very hard at this, and he announced it on Twitter after the 2-minute disaster of the Miami
Dolphins,
Tennessee game the other night when he was seen on Twitter curled up under his bed.
Yeah.
In just complete disgust. So go ahead.
Yeah, Marty, I was very distraught, but I would say me and you retired under similar circumstances, right? You retired a legend. I retired as the very worst gambler in the history of the world. Now, I'd say it's pretty similar, but going off that, I would ask you this. If the Reds offered you to come out of retirement and they had a Shohei Ohtani deal for you, I have your contract written out here. It's a little different. So you're going to get paid $25 a game and 1 free cheese coney for 3 years. And once the 3-year deal ends, you get a check for $1 billion in the rights to the city. The whole city becomes Marty Brennaman Town. Would you do it?
You mean right now today, right?
Yeah, right now today.
And I'm less than 6 months away from my 82nd birthday. Right?
Yes.
There is no way on God's earth. Sometimes I struggle to get through the day.
Yeah.
So no, now if they make that offer when I was 60 or 65, yeah, I'd have probably gone for that. And $25 a game and Skyline Chili, 5-way. Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah,
but not now. No.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
That's
probably.
a dumbass question too.
Well, okay. What instead of a $1 billion on the back end, you get to ride Redzilla unlimited times. You just get to go out there on the golf cart and fire T-shirts at people.
I'd have to. If I did that, I'd have to supplant Phil Castellini because he loves to ride in that damn thing. So
does he?
Okay. Yeah. Did you? I'm going to be on pretty much every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Roughly.
How do you reach a point where you ask the most inane questions of anybody I've ever been interviewed by?
Marty, you get interviewed by all these hot shots, all these guys that are trying to be serious elitists.
That's right.
These guys aren't very fun. These aren't the guys you want at parties. I'm the guy you want at the party, Marty. Look at my dancing clown shoes. I'm going to dance for you, and I'm going to make you laugh. I'm going to be a silly little guy, and you're going to be in that corner with a drink in your hand laughing at me. And that's what I bring. That's the spirit that I bring. And speaking of that, Marty, at a holiday party coming up, are you going to be a fan of eggnog? I saw that in the chat. Will you be drinking eggnog?
I don't drink eggnog.
That's good.
I don't drink eggnog.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
Let me go back. Let me go back to something you just said a moment ago.
Okay, good.
I'm paraphrasing now.
Okay.
I'm going to be that little guy at the party. They can say a lot of things about you, but Jesus. Little ain't one of them. Now,
who's the broadcaster? Is Al Michaels the one who doesn't eat vegetables? Who's the broadcaster who doesn't eat vegetables?
I think it is Al Michaels.
It is Al Michaels.
It is. Yeah.
Now, Marty, if you utilize that strategy of never eating anything green, where do you think you'd be in your life?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm 81 years old. I'm in pretty good shape.
You are. You look great.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
quit
can't.
Sucking up.
I know. See, you got to do that, don't you?
Yeah, he does.
He's got to do that.
Yeah. He just can't be a straight
green
shooter.
Vegetables.
Okay, that's good. All right, that's all I had. Thank you, Marty.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Elliot.
I feel like I almost owe you an apology for today.
No, I know. Because the question that Trace asked about Carolina playing Kentucky and Oklahoma, and then the question that Reed asked, they were real bona fide questions.
Right.
Now, he gives up gambling. That's the take I got from that
yes.
major announcement he made on Twitter and everything else. I'm no longer gambling. Is that right, Elliot?
That's right. That's correct, Marty. You got that right.
I would say to you, why does anybody care whether you gamble or not?
Well, because here's the thing, Marty. Gambling unifies this nation. It unifies it. So when I gamble, it gives maybe somebody else who maybe hasn't tried it yet, it gives them the opportunity to throw down $25. I'll tell you right now, Marty, if the Reds over-under win total is 77, like you just said, if that's what Vegas has it, I'm going to go to my local bank, I'm going to pull out a loan of $400 million, and I'm going to put it all on the win total. And that will inspire the rest of this city to bet on it as well. And it'll be like a unifying thing.
It would inspire the city to bet against that.
Maybe.
Now,
A little bit.
Yeah, two things. I did not predict that. Let's make sure we understand here. I said that FanGraphs Analytics. They did.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. And now you're contradicting what you wasted my time over a minute ago when you said you've given up gambling. Now, are you or are you not still gambling?
Yes, that is a legitimate question because he announced this
lying.
on Monday night. Yesterday, we're sitting in the studio, and we talked about the line of the UC Bryant game. And he asked me on the show, Tom, I know you're not a gambler, but if you were a gambler, would you bet the 19? I said, man, that sounds like a lot of points. Now, you would have covered that bet. And I asked Elliot, I said, what do you think about that? He said, well, I might have to look into that. which, I mean, we were talking roughly 12 hours after the fact that he had given it up and was at least debating jumping back in.
Right.
Did you make any bet last night?
Here's what I'll say.
Did you make a bet last night?
Here's what I'll say.
Are you lying
Here's
to
what I'll
people?
say.
Are you
Here's,
lying?
here's what I'll say. I am retired officially. Now, if I'm doing a little of this and that off the books, maybe, but that's a hobby, Marty. That's not my job. My job was gambling. I retired from that. But
Well, wait,
a little of this
Elliot.
and that on the side, Marty, that's not hurting anybody.
Elliot,
Yeah.
did you categorize yourself as a professional gambler?
Yeah. Yes, I did. I
Made your living gambling.
Correct. Yes.
Well, that confirms something that I've often thought about since we did this show.
And what's that?
You are certifiably stupid. If you categorize yourself as a professional gambler at your young age,
Yes.
one, it shows me that you're misguided. Secondly, it really shows me to some extent that you're rather lazy.
Here's what I'll tell you, Marty. Here's what I'll tell you. Here's what I'll tell you. Here's what I'll tell you. I will take you, and this is a promise. I will take you into either the Hollywood Casino in Lawrenceburg, or I'll take you to that one downtown that they keep changing the name of. I'll take you to either one of those.
Hard
Rock now.
Hard Rock.
I will take you to the. You seem like a more fancy guy, so I'll take you to Hard Rock. We'll go to Hard Rock. We'll spend 30 minutes at a blackjack table, and I'm telling you right now, Marty, your life will be changed by witnessing a professional like myself.
Yeah, it's not going to change my life because I'm a lot of things, but first and foremost, I am very close to my money.
Well, and
So
that's
you ain't going to change my life.
That's smart, Marty. But here's the thing: when you watch me gamble, right, and you just kind of alluded to it, I wasn't very good at it. Some would say that I'm at the table and I'm just trying my best to win as much as I can. I'm starving for money. I'm yearning for money. Now, what I'll tell you is, when you're starving, when you're hungry, and you're at the blackjack table, nobody will work harder and try faster to win that money right back than me. Because a hungry dog always runs faster, Marty.
That was the big buildup, right?
No, well, that
So
was...
you could deliver
I was ready to
that
end this...
already tired line.
I was ready to end this bit 5 minutes ago, but you brought it back. I'm just playing the part here.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. I really do. And I feel like I'm a lot wiser as a result of this conversation than I was 30 minutes ago.
Okay. Did you listen to Dominic the Donkey yet? That was your homework.
Yeah, have you heard that?
I have not.
I got to tell you,
Dominic
Dad,
the Donkey.
it is unbelievable. You will really like it. You're a Sinatra guy. Those guys that can really sing.
Blue Monte.
You always used to love that song they played at Shea Stadium in the seventh inning. Or is that where it was? Or no, was it Milwaukee? I can't remember. No, it was New York. Where they get the da 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 da. They get all that going, right? This is a Christmas song, kind of like that. Dominic the Donkey, written by Sun.
Where do I see?
You can just
Where
Google
do I access it?
Just Google it on your computer.
All right,
Dominic the Donkey.
Believe me, next Wednesday I will have watched it and I will have dissected it, and we will talk about Dominic the Donkey.
It is fantastic. It is fantastic.
Okay.
All right.
I take your word, Tom.
All right. I'm telling you, you're really going to like it. I love it. All right. Good enough. Well, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for the time, and we'll see you next Wednesday with any luck at all.
I look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye, Marty. Love you.
Take care.
See you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
We got to bring Dominic the Donkey back as our cherry on top today.
Please.
We have to do that.
Speaking of Christmas songs, Tom, we got a little gift in the studio. We got a little gift.
A song?
Well, not a song. Just thinking of Christmas spirit. We got a gift from one of our loyal viewers, one of our loyal listeners.
Who's
Molly.
that?
Molly. She brought us a little gift. She got us all little Christmas hats. See, for me, because I'm the Chicago Cubs slappy, I got a Chicago Cubs Christmas hat. Look at that. Thank you, Molly. Thank you so much. Elliot got a Bengals.
Zebra. I got a zebra Bengals hat. How about that?
It's the zebra.
It's personalized. It's close to the heart. Tom, on his side.
Well, Casey first.
No. We got to save Casey for last.
We have to save Casey for last.
Because
So
it's all
I got
about
a Cubs hat.
It's all.
Okay.
You got a Bengals hat.
It's zebra stripes. It's themed.
I got an Ohio State Buckeyes lid. Look
at
at
that.
that with the O
Look
on
at
the
that.
top. That is big league. I got to
that.
tell you. Which way am I doing that?
Yeah,
I'm
looks good.
screwing it up.
Looks
But,
good.
man, that thing is sweet. I might wear this the entire holiday season. Molly,
It's an elite lid.
thank you.
It's a great lid, Tom.
Tom
it's
still
a-
doesn't believe that Molly's real.
I don't. But this hat is real. I can tell you that. This is a big-time hat.
Thank you.
My son will be wearing this, even though he's an IU guy. He'll be wearing this all over the place. And last but certainly not least, Mr. McAllister.
Yeah, my hat.
Molly, why? Why, Molly?
I don't
We
know.
all got sports themed.
We all got.
They
we
all
each
got sports themed. I got a pair of pants. I think it was a sign that I need to start wearing the pants in my relationship. I don't know. I guess I just need to put on some pants. So that's what I got.
Molly, I don't keep it. No. Keep it on you. Keep it on you. Molly, I don't know how it's possible that we all got personalized themed things. Ohio State, Cubs, Zebra, Bengals. You gave him a pair of pants.
She said she was trying to find an FC. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Molly.
so
We
much, Molly.
appreciate it.
These are
literally-
really, really nice.
They are really nice.
Yeah, get the camera back on you for that. It's really nice. Yeah.
We have. I'm not
Little
kidding
legs
you
just
guys.
gotta
We have to
bounce.
tell Tom that Molly is real every day.
I don't believe
He
it.
doesn't believe us.
I don't believe it. I mean, I appreciate it, Molly, whoever you are. I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate you being with us in the chat, on the show, every single day. I love these hats. It's so thoughtful, really thoughtful. Thank you, whoever you are, Molly.
Merry
Whoever
Christmas.
you are.
Merry Christmas, Molly. Thank
Merry
you so much.
Christmas indeed. Merry Christmas to all. That's big league hat.
Our big league.
I love this hat. We're going to keep this in the front. You know, speaking of Ohio State, I read something, and we're not going to spend any time on this, but I really find this very interesting. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Just a few minutes ago, came out, the All-American left tackle for Notre Dame is going to sit out of the bowl game, right? Mm-hmm. Projected to be a number one pick. Caleb Williams is not going to play in a bowl game for USC, right? May, the quarterback at North Carolina, just declared for the draft 2 days ago. He's not going to play in the bowl game.
Right.
There are 7 players from Ohio State that are projected to be first or second round picks. And this does not include Marvin Harrison Jr. They have 7 players that are projected to be first or second round picks. All upperclassmen, not seniors. Harrison's not a senior, he's a junior. But all these other guys, whether it's Travion Henderson, whether it's Denzel Burke, whether it's JT Tuimoloau, whether it's Jack Sawyer, their 2 defensive ends, whether it's Emeka Egbuka, their wide receiver, every single one of them are playing in the bowl game for Ohio State. I think it is so refreshing, and I don't bring it up because I'm an Ohio State fan. But, man, when you have all the guys on your team and the coaches and the fans who are all invested and busted their tail day in and day out the entire year, for those kids to come back and say, you know what, this season we lost to Michigan, we're not in the Final Four, we're playing in some bowl game, the Cotton Bowl, that maybe a lot of people out there don't care about, but they said, you know what, we care about it, and we're going to go out there and play. And I think it's really refreshing to see it.
Just means more in Columbus.
I don't know if it does or not. I mean, I'm not saying, well, I mean, if actions speak louder than words, then it does mean more. Mm-hmm. Now, none of the Final Four teams are going to have guys step out. But every other bowl game you look at, every single one of them, guys are dropping like flies. Not playing. And I give it up to those guys, man, because you're running the risk of an injury. Clearly, that's why most guys don't
Can't
play.
blame them, right?
What's that?
You can't blame the guys that aren't playing.
No.
Right.
Never. But I just think it's quite refreshing in this day and age of NIL, of transport portal, of me, I, that you got some guys that have been going at it since July or whatever practice started that are saying, you know what, we got one game left and we're going to be here for the school that gave us a scholarship and have given us a chance to play at the next level. Which brings me to the Marvin Harrison Jr. thing.
I was going to say, do you believe the reports about
Now,
this?
look, I don't know what to believe or not to believe. There's been no confirmation of this from a reliable source. But there are rumors floating around that the NIL people at Ohio State and their athletic director, who's retiring, Gene Smith, has never embraced this NIL thing. Now, he's on the way out, and they have not named a successor, and that is by far the largest athletic department from a budget standpoint of any school in the country. You may hate them, you may love them, but it cannot be denied. They are damn good, if not great, in everything. From football to women's hockey to golf to, basketball's had its ups and downs. That's one area where,
last year was
but
bad.
I mean, you start getting into volleyball, men's and women's. I mean, they're just unbelievable at everything. They really are.
Women's basketball team.
Solid.
Head coach is a Hamiltonian.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Who
Baden
loves
grad.
Xavier.
Yep.
Right.
Grab. Kevin
So, but the point I'm making here is that there are stories out there. And when you really start now navigating through this whole thing, there are stories out there that there are people saying to Marvin Harrison Jr., who is a junior, he has 1 year left of eligibility. Most people feel like he would be a top 5 draft pick this year if he comes out. He was in the Final Four for the Heisman Trophy. He is a freak. He's the best receiver that's come out of, as far as just the collegiate ranks. He is a more talented guy. It's not to say he'll be that in the pros, but he has more of the entire package than Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson or any number of guys that have come out of college in the last number of years. He's the fastest player in college football, and he's 6'4" and weighs over 210 pounds. This guy is a freak, and he's a gamer, and he grew up in a household where his father's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. He cares. He's tough. He's everything you want, team guy, in a football player. Everything you want. He's everything you want as a kid, to be honest with you. But there are rumors that he is being offered anywhere from $10 million to $15 million, upwards of $20 million to come back and play next season at Ohio State. Now, when you go get chosen in the NFL draft, one of the first things you hear about is, okay, what kind of a signing bonus you get? Well, it would be nothing compared to that. The Ohio State money would blow that money out of the gym at the pro level. Your pro level would be at the rookie entrance level where you're slotted, what your salary would be. And you'd have to play 8 or 9 years on a rookie deal to get upwards of 10 to 15 to $20 million. Of course, as you progress, you go up. And the big caveat, the big sales pitch to going pro is that you start your clock faster for that big contract after year 4. Now, I am not a math major in any form or fashion. I was terrible at math. I'm still terrible at math. But, if you stop and think about it for a second, okay, you run the risk in the NFL of no guaranteed contract. It's not like baseball. You sign a long-term deal, and it's guaranteed money. Now, more and more of those are being structured like that in the NFL, but they're not like that yet. If you stop and think about the amount of money that Marvin Harrison Jr. conceivably, if any of this is true, would make at Ohio State next year, and most people you talk to, unless their family is in a situation where, they got to get to the pros and they got to, all this kind of stuff before NIL. NIL's changed a lot of that. Then, but Marvin Harrison's family's not in a situation where they're having trouble, paying their rent on an apartment in Philadelphia. That's not the deal. His dad made millions of dollars. The money would be guaranteed for next season if he stays at Ohio State, even if he's injured. He's going to get the 10 or 15 or $20 million. Okay? If he comes out in the pros and he gets hurt the first year, right, he'll make whatever he makes that first year. But all bets are off depending on the severity of an injury.
Wouldn't his signing bonus be in the 20 millions?
I don't think it would be that high as a
think-
4th or 5th pick.
Parker Blake said if he's a top 3 pick, his
He
signing
won't be
bonus,
a top 3 pick.
His signing bonus will be 22.8. If he's a top 5, his signing bonus will be 20 plus.
20 plus. So you're basically calling it basically a wash. But you're getting the $20 million. And it was leading me to say, if you talk to most guys out there, most guys would rather have another year playing college football just for the enjoyment of it. Most guys that go to the pros, man, people don't understand this. The pro game is a whole different world, man. We sit around here and talk about how well that guy played and how well that guy played. Every move you make, and Harrison's not the kind of guy that would back down to that. But, man, there are no limits on the amount of time you're expected to be at the facility. There are no limits in the scrutiny. There are no limits in the pressure. Now, there's pressure playing wide receiver at Ohio State. Right. But he already has his degree. I mean, he can show up at some grad school class 2 days a week and just then do anything he wants to get better. It's going to be really, really interesting because it's a lot of money if it's true. I don't think that I could be totally wrong. It would be hard for me to fathom that a wide receiver is going to be, in his case, even though he's the best one coming out, depending on a team's needs, top 3, top 5, yeah, I would think.
He's currently projected at third because normally how people have the mock drafts are quarterback, then Marvin Harrison, which is absolutely fair. Listen, I hear all these reports. I remember there was reports last year about C.J. Stroud thinking about coming back, and it's not to the degree that have come out about Marvin Harrison. But
well, he waited till the last minute. If you remember, Marvin Harrison waited until the day before the draft to make that decision, or the day before you had to declare.
It just seems like wishful thinking from Ohio State fans.
Might be.
And listen, I don't know much about the reports. It just seems like incredibly wishful thinking to think that he's not going to go to the pros and be a top 3 pick because the NIL money is so lucrative in Ohio State. It just seems like wishful thinking to me. If you were Betfred Sportsbook and you had to put odds, you had to put we'll say percentage chance that Marvin Harrison goes to the pros as opposed to staying at Ohio State, where would you put it, Tom?
I'm not savvy on. I mean, I would certainly think that the odds would favor him going pro. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I'm telling you, man, you get around a lot of these guys, and it doesn't mean they're not a nut cutter. But if somebody can pay you $20 million to play one more year of college football, and some of the chatters said, "How's he going to get better?" Dude, go walk around the National Football League. You are not going to find a wide receivers coach in the NFL who's better than Brian Hartline. There isn't one. There's not one better. Ohio State has become wide receiver you. Every time you turn around, these cats are number 1 picks literally every single year. Olave, Garrett Wilson, Amuka Smith, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and he didn't even play his senior year. Still a number 1 pick. And now Harrison Jr. So I think to answer that part of it, I think you can get better. But I think you're right. I think all things considered, he probably does go pro.
Right.
But, just the fact that he hasn't done it yet, it does at least make you wonder, is he thinking about it?
This would be
because everybody else has already decided they're doing it.
Right.
I was in favor of college kids being able to use their name, image, and likeness. I was a fan of it. I think them not being able to profit off their own accolades, their own name, I think that's nonsense. But if he were to do this, and let's say they offered $20 million, I mean, what is college football at that point? I mean, what's the state of college football? It's already happening. He's already making, at least what I saw, $1.3 million on his NIL deal. And that's probably nothing compared to what he's actually making. He's probably making way more. That's just the reported number. But if you're paying a guy $20 million just to come back to school for a year, I mean, that's at some point you're just losing college football. And maybe it's already lost. Maybe that was the point of NIL. I don't know. But it seems that would be unprecedented. That would change the sport.
It is crazy to think about. There will be somebody trying to give, if this report's true, and he does come back and plays for $20 million next year, that there was somebody that was willing to give Marvin Harrison Jr. $20 million so that they could, like, they're already going to win 10 games, right? You could put that in.
Yeah.
So it's for a better chance to win an extra 2 games. That's crazy.
Well, and look, you're right. I don't know if it even makes a difference in extra 2 games when all is said. I don't know. I mean, they don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. They're going to be testing 2 guys out there in the Cotton Bowl, and they're very active in the transfer portal. The one kid decided, by the way, if you didn't see the news, from Duke, Riley Leonard, he made the decision last night that he is, as everyone expected, going to Notre Dame. So this is the second year in a row where the best quarterback in the Atlantic Coast Conference is saying, adios, I'm out of here. And I am going to Notre Dame. It was Sam Hartman from Wake Forest last year. It is Riley Leonard this year. Is it Evan Pryor? Is that the name it's breaking across right now? Former 5-star recruit, running back at Ohio State, who's been injured his first 2 years there, has just decided today he's transferring to UC.
Really?
I just saw that. Yeah, 30 as of 20 minutes ago.
Scott.
Yep.
Satterfield.
Big Sat.
Get Satterfield.
This was a guy that everybody, when he
get the
signed
full
there,
words.
he signed the same year as Travion Henderson, and everybody wondered who was going to be the guy. Well, Henderson wound up being the guy. Pryor's been hurt a lot, but when he's been healthy and practiced, a lot of people think this guy's got a chance to be a great player. You put him in the same backfield with Corey Kleiner next year now, you got a pretty good thing going there.
Yeah, especially, I mean, they were already top 10 in the country in rushing, so they'd be elite.
Yep.
They'd be elite. Now they'd have to fix everything else, including the quarterback, but.
All right, let's take a break and for ads and lots to talk about on the other side. We got the Bengals. We got Reed's top 5, Casey Stink list.
Buy or sell.
Buy or sell.
Yeah.
Buy or sell. Do we have any letters today?
No, we do not. No letters today.
Okay,
Yeah,
Casey,
they're running
take it
dry.
away.
All right. Well, the Future Bengals Report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
Productivity.
the path to innovation begins here. Visit encore.tech. And then I've got this lovely bottle of water right here. Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water. Some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com. See where you can buy this great tasting water. And on that note, fellas, just to wrap up, put a little bow on that whole Marvin Harrison Jr. story, whatnot.
Yeah.
I know you all were talking about how there's just like no chance whatsoever. I mean, there's reports of him saying like he would love to go back. Like it's not out of the question that, like when it's different when a player kind of like avoids the answering the question, and then the player actually answers it and says, "Yeah, I'm considering going back." Like
It just seems like until the precedent has been set, which this could be the instance where the precedent is set, it's really hard for me to comprehend that happening. And I get the reports, and Tom brought up C.J. Stroud last year, but like I said, until the precedent is set, it's hard for me to comprehend that he's going to turn down being the 3rd overall. He's going to be a top 5 pick. At the highest, he'll be a 3rd. At the lowest, he'll be a 5th. So he's going to make $20 million on top of his year-to-year contract in the NFL. And on top of that, he's going to be 1 year closer to getting that second contract. So all those things considered, it's just really hard for me to comprehend.
that's
him
fair
going
too.
to
I
college.
didn't even think about the second contract thing. Like
Yes,
you
that's the
want to
big
worry
thing.
about
Is
your
it
age.
it starts the clock earlier, and then on top of that, it's so hard for me to comprehend that there's people out there. Like I said, like I don't know what Ohio State's schedule is next year, but I mean they'll play 2 games that they might lose, maybe 3. So you're telling me that you're going to pay $20 million for a guy, for a wide, not even a quarterback, a wide receiver, so that you can win 2 more games? Like you're paying the guy $10 million a game. Like think about it. Like the only games on their schedule, and I think they play Washington, they play Oregon, and they play Penn State, and they play Michigan. Other than that,
They don't
it's
play
a bad-
like
it's
they
a
don't
bad
play like
schedule.
UCLA or anything like that.
it's
next
a
year.
it's a tougher schedule than it was this year. But it's just
it
really
though?
it's really hard for me to comprehend paying a kid $20 million to play wide receiver in college when it only will affect maybe 2 games. So,
I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible to get him to stay. But it's fun debating it.
it is fun. It is fun.
Well, besides that, since we're getting into the second half of this show, the second hour, what about Zach Taylor yesterday?
What
I
a
mean,
wild thing.
that was kind of wild for him to be like, drink another beer. We need you to be kind of blackout drunk, screaming, being crazy wild fans. I mean, I'm all for it because I am a crazy fan, and I'll be there. I'll be at the game. This is the first game I'll be in the stadium amongst the normal folk, not with the highfalutin crowd and the box seats. But
Wait a minute. Have you sat in a box this season, yes or no?
yeah, with Betfred.
That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Just-
be careful now. Okay, go ahead.
Me and Casey
But,
would
yeah,
rather be in the crowd.
Yeah, I think it's a way different experience in the
like
boxes.
sitting in the box.
It's not as fun. It's not as exhilarating. You don't get the energy that you get when you're down in the lower bowl, which is where I'll be. I'll be on the river side. I guess that's the south side of the stadium.
And I want to clarify something that you said that Zach Taylor said. He didn't want people blacking out at the stadium.
Oh, he
wanted
basically
them to
asked that.
Dress in black at the stadium.
He basically asked his fans
To have
to get
one more
blackout
beer.
drunk.
One more beer. He
One
didn't
more
say
beer.
blackout drunk.
Well,
Listen, Tom,
the-
in a world
He
where-
said have one more beer.
Yeah, but he already knows everybody's drunk. So when you tell him to have one more beer to your additional drunk, he wants you to be a little.
He wants you to be-
What would happen
not
if you
blacking
told
out,
your
what's your
kids
brown
going to
out?
the game, go have one more extra beer here today? What would happen if you did that?
They'd be drunk.
They'd be drunk.
Yeah.
Listen,
Who's picking up the tab for the people to get home by encouraging that?
Oh, what a take. So you're against this?
I'm just saying. I'm just asking a question. I mean, if you take things, I don't want to be like some party
Most
pooper
of
here. I
them-
think it's kind of funny. I think it's kind of cute. But at the end of the day, if you put it in an entirely different context, what would people's reaction be if you said to your kids, even if they're legal drinking age, hey, go have one more? Oh, and by the way, did you drive to get down there? Did everybody drive to get down there, or are we all taking Ubers?
Well, much like we do here
Listen,
on
hey,
on
DD,
on
I
our
don't want to be a
shows.
party pooper,
We do.
but if
There's
when you
personal
put it into a
responsibility
different
there.
context,
There's
it
personal
takes on a
responsibility.
different meaning.
Well, this is
Like what-
this is the behavior that Zach Taylor just inspired. Drew Garrison, $5 super chat. I will be blacking out at the stadium and blacking out in the stadium. So Drew's not going to really see that football game.
Listen, if Zach Taylor wants me, like, listen, we're all soldiers here. We're all here to do our parts. If
That's
Zach
right.
Taylor wants me drunk for the Bengals game, then Willie, who am I going to tell the coach no? Right? I just do my due diligence. I do my duty. But Tom, I always dislike these arguments that people make about what about how they're going to get home. I remember last year when the MLB with their new rules, the game had shortened. And there was that one relief pitcher that was talking about, like, what happened to the
Yep, yeah, I remember
the
that.
responsibility? These guys need to get home. It's like,
Yep.
wait, like the team's job isn't to get you home, right? Like it's where is personal responsibility there? Figure out how you're going to safely do it, right? Right? Get a DD, take an Uber, something like that. It's
Right.
not the team's responsibility to get you and tuck you into bed at night.
No, it's not. That's a fact.
So I've always hated that. I mean, like bars, that their whole business is to sell you alcohol. Now they do have to stop serving you if you're falling over the place, but they don't make you sit in a tank in a room for 30 minutes after you had your last beer, like you just ate before you dive into the pool.
Yep.
Like, they don't make you sit. Hey, can you sit over in this corner for 30 minutes before you leave? Like, there's personal responsibility. So
I
I've
will
always
bet
hated
you
those
money.
arguments.
I'll bet you money that Zach Taylor clarifies those comments today or tomorrow.
Yep. I will
bet you money.
I don't think it's. A
He
bad
does-
thing.
he-
I don't
he's
think
gonna
it's
I'm
a bad
not
do-
thing.
saying he should either. I'm not saying he should. I know and I take it because I love drinking beer and having a beer at a tailgate and having a beer at a football game. I get it. Believe me. No one's gotten more tanked up in their life more than I have. But I'm just saying, in the world we live in now, there are enough freaks out there that are going to go crazy over his thing that I guarantee you somebody with the organization is going to say to him, hey, Zach, you might want to clarify that.
Well, listen, just like we do sometimes forget on this show to clarify.
That's right.
Bet responsibly. Call 1-800-GAMBLER if you got a problem. I'm sure Zach, he's not actually wanting us to get blackout drunk, but as a crazy fan that will twist and interpret things in his own way, and the fact that we're all wearing black for our jerseys, I think there was some little wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, I get a little loud today, sort of feeling.
Listen, I don't think there's anything wrong with what Zach Taylor said,
Yeah,
and
I don't
maybe
think
you
so
guys
either.
are right about he's gonna step back and clarify those comments, but to telling people to drink an extra beer before they go in the stadium, there's absolutely nothing.
No, there's nothing. I agree. And Jolly Sam drinking Red Bull and vodka is not true. No, beer drinker. You know that, Jolly. You know that. You don't
dip into the bourbon at all.
Every now and again, I'll dip in. I like stepping out a little bourbon. Every now and again, I love having a little bit of gin. That's old school.
I like
Gin's
gin.
old
I
school.
like gin.
That's old school.
Yeah.
That's still good.
You like eggnog. We asked your dad.
Not an eggnog guy. You guys?
I love eggnog.
It's disgusting.
I love it.
Okay. Casey?
Make
No,
homemade
not an eggnog guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not an eggnog guy.
We got to get Jim Day on the show and do his impersonation of Jerry Narron. I tried to talk him into years. So Jerry Narron, for many, many years, the former manager of the Reds, and then he left, he had a really, really good friend who was the flight attendant on all of the Reds' charter flights. And they stayed very good friends, years and years, stayed in contact with each other. And we're sitting in the back of the plane, and I'm sitting next to Jim, and the lady comes over and says, Jerry he talks all the time about this impersonation you're doing of him. And Jim Day has got it down. I mean, down to a T. And I used to try to chalk Jim Day all the time when Jerry Narron would come in as the bench coach for the Diamondbacks. I would say, listen, set up an interview where you interview Jerry Narron as Jerry Narron. I said it would be great television. He never asked him to do it. That's good TV.
It is good
What
TV.
would you rather hear about? Would you rather see that when you're watching a pregame show in July, summer day, it's hot out, you come in to watch a game at night, right? Maybe you had a little cookout. Would you rather watch that or have somebody tell you about launch angle?
You know what I'd rather have? I'd rather have
Launch angle. Every home run now, we got to put it up. Exit velo and launch angle. We don't want to see the guy run around the field, touch home, jump up and down, celebrate with his teammates or the fans. The second the ball goes over the fence on every Reds game now, we get exit velo and launch angle.
Exit velo's fun.
But why can't you give it after the guy gets done celebrating
fair.
in the dugout?
That's fair.
Why do you have to do it the second it lands in the stands in right center field and the guy's running around and the crowd's going crazy? Maybe you just – now, look, if it's a 10-2 game, okay. But if you just hit a bomb in the last of the eighth at home to go from 3-2 down to up 4-3 or 5-3, why am I looking at launch angle and exit velo? Why am I looking at that? Seriously, that's bad television. It's bad TV. I've told the story 1,000 times. In my years at Fox, we'd have our baseball seminar every year, and Fox had a research division, an entirely separate company, that they would spend all year long sitting down with football fans, then a different group of baseball fans, then a different group of NASCAR, then a different group of college basketball, whatever it is Fox had, FS1, Fox, all that stuff. And in the baseball thing, they would give them items 1 to 30 of what's the most important thing when you're watching a baseball game. What's number 1 priority? Score. What's number 2? What's number 3? All the way down, the least would be number 30. In the last 4 years we had those seminars, analytic numbers never got higher than 27th on what a viewer wants at home. Now, if you want to structure your teammate around your team around analytics, so be it. When the guy at home is sitting there watching, do you think anybody wants to see that on the screen? on a 3-run bomb in the last of the 8th at home, sellout crowd against the Cubbies. And I mean, De La Cruz is hitting first base. What do we see? Exit velo, launch angle.
What about barrel percentage?
I haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen that one? That one's a big one at
haven't seen that
GABP. It's the percent of balls you hit on the barrel of the bat.
Well, I mean, I know what that is. I just haven't seen it. It seems like every team, not just the Reds, it seems like every team, and maybe it was a Bally's kind of edict, that every single time a home run is hit, that's the first thing you see on the screen when it lands in the stands.
Yeah.
You probably like it, though, Reed.
That's not true.
I mean, you
Tom.
probably like it. Reed.
That's not true.
You probably
Tom.
do.
I do like when a exit velo is really high. I do like it.
Yeah, Tom. I'll try to be on the opposite side of this. I want to know how badly he just crushed that ball, right?
That's fair.
I
have
want
no
to just see
problem
how
with that
bad.
at all. And I agree with you.
But
there.
not right away.
I'm saying in the Reds' case, they did this little thing last year, right, where they had the Viking helmet going. They said they're going to do it again this year. Okay,
Yeah.
and that was really cool. If people want to see that on television, that's fine, no problem. But when they're done with that, when the next batter comes up to the plate, ball one outside. Take the shot of Casey McAllister, who just hit the ball in the seats. And then you want to put it up there, launch angle, whatever.
I like this.
Exit velo, 111, move on. I just don't have to see it the moment the ball leaves the yard. Is that fair?
I guess that's fair. Yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah.
Reed loves it.
That's not true.
Reed loves it.
That's not true.
You do. You love it. You love it. You just said you love it.
I like exit velo. I don't care about launch angle.
Mm-hmm. Tom, my favorite segment you ever did with Jim Day was when you interviewed that bird, and then Jim Day was the voice. Can that be the cherry on top today?
No.
Yes.
It
Casey, I'm going to send you that.
I was tired, and that is tired.
Can you take us? How did that come about? Like
It was a day, just a long day. And there was this bird that was sitting right there in front of me for the whole game. It was
team was
almost
terrible
like it
too,
had
right?
lost its mate, its husband or wife. And it was just sad because normally we would see these two birds, and I don't know if it's one of the two of those birds, that would sit on one of those wires, those lines that come down that hold up the backstop. And they would sit there. Sometimes they would make a nest right there below our booth. And we would always make sure that, that they were okay. And all of a sudden, this guy or gal's by him or herself. And it was sort of sad.
And you're referring to the bird.
The bird.
I like that segment.
So
that was my favorite. That
so
was
did
when
the
team
producers come over the headset and be like, "Hey, there's this bird here."
No. I just started that in our own. No. Jim loved that stuff. He loved that sort of shtick. It was a blowout game. It was late in a day game, if I think right.
Yeah,
I think it was an afternoon game. And but that's a case in point. I know we're kidding around, but that's what I'm talking about. That's the sort of stuff that people remember.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I might have called the Derek Jeter play, right, which is played everywhere, right? I'll have as many people bring up the bird. It's so disheartening as play-by-play guy. You'll bring up as many people bring up the bird as they do the Pujols home run in the league championship series against Houston. I mean, that's the stuff. So that's what I'm talking about. Nobody is going to remember the next day. If you have the choice when the ball lands in the stands after a home run, if your choice is as a producer, and really this is more on the director, unless the producer has been told every time there's a home run, put up the exit velo and the launch angle. People would much rather see, and the thing they'll be talking about the next day is not the exit velocity on the home run, okay? They'll talk about, in order, this. If these are your options, and picture this for a second, okay? The scenario I said, bomb to right field, last of the 8th inning, Great American Ballpark. You go from 3-2 down to 4-3, 5-3 up. Okay, the second the ball lands in the stands, your options are exit velo, launch angle, or we just start bopping around the ballpark looking for that shot of that one little kid or that one guy who's standing there with his shirt off that night, right?
Yeah.
Or the mom and son just going crazy, hugging each other, along with the players in the dugout, the fans, the guy touching home plate, the high fives, the choreographed stuff they got going on seemingly all the time with every team. So if those are your two choices, exit velo, launch angle, or all of that scenario, and let's say it's just the one little kid who gives you this magical reaction, what are people going to remember the next day? And when they're around the water cooler talking about the Reds' home run in the last of the eighth by Ellie De La Cruz, they're going to talk about the home run. And man, did you see that little kid? How many of them are going to say, oh, man, I got to tell you, brother, that referee can launch angle now. That's some big league stuff. What do you think?
I think what I'm going to do now, Tom, now that you've expressed your interest in launch angle, after every game next season, I'm going to come on the show with the launch angle of every home run that is hit, and we will have that segment. I like this now. And we will dedicate a 5-minute segment each show to launch angle.
Okay, that's fine. Of course, being Jolly being the prodder that he is, a native, he says, I want to know it was a 104-degree launch angle. Okay. Well, again, you have a chance to do that in a matter of like 20 seconds after he comes into the dugout, right? You don't have the chance to get the reaction of the kid.
Yep.
You don't have to get the chance to get the reaction of any number of things that might be going on, the fireworks, whatever it might be. Anyway, I digress. All right, where are we going next here, boys?
Let's jump right into buy or sell.
Buy or sell? Here we go. Let's hear it. Let's hear it, Casey.
Buy. Sell.
Is that Jim Cramer?
Yes, it is.
Does he have that patented? We're not getting any trouble with that?
We'll find out later.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Tom, do you get your stock advice from Jim Cramer?
No, I do not. All right. Go ahead.
Sorry, I had to take a drink of Pawnee water.
No problem.
All right, buy or sell. Got a couple buy or sells.
Here we go.
We're a couple weeks left into the NFL season. I don't believe we've done this for a few weeks now. So we'll start it on off, and we'll keep it in the division. Joe Flacco will lead the Browns to the playoffs. They're currently in a playoff spot. He's looked damn good for the past 2 weeks. Joe Flacco will lead the Browns to the playoffs. Buy or sell, Tom?
This is a no-brainer. Buy. Hit it, Casey.
Buy.
Go ahead. Next up.
I'm going to buy it as well. Joe Flacco's looked damn good. I think Reed was a little hard on him his first week back.
He looked bad in the second half of that game.
And, well, he hadn't known the playbook. He didn't know the players. He came off a plane, and he was starting the game.
Yeah.
So Joe Flacco's all the way back. He will lead them to a postseason. I still think they might win a game. I'm not as confident as I was when they had Deshaun Watson. But I think the passing offense is now way better than it was with Deshaun Watson. So there's that. I do think there's an issue with the running game. But the defense is elite as always. So.
All right, can I ask you one question before we go, just to clarify something?
Yeah.
Okay, you had made the comment, as we've talked about when Deshaun Watson was still there, that they were going to win 2 playoff games.
Sure.
Okay, since he has gone down, you have clarified, and we can live with this, you have clarified that you think they will win 1 playoff game.
Yes.
Okay, so if they win 2, are you going to pat yourself on the back?
Yes.
You reneged on that.
Yes, I will pat myself on the back, but I want it on the record that if they don't win it, it's negated because Deshaun Watson's not there.
So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win for
It's
me.
a win-win.
I think
I think that's fair.
Just wanted to double check.
I just want to take my victory lap.
like to know what's coming.
Well, he won't get that opportunity because I am selling this
Wow.
one. They have an
Sell.
85% chance to make the postseason right now. They'd have to fall off the wagon to do it, but I think that's exactly what they do. I think they'll only win 1 game for the rest of the year. Listen, the Browns are going to Brown. I mean, we talk about how you can't look at last year, you can't look at the years before, but that's history, and that gives my my opinions their credence, and the Browns will always Brown themselves. So I'm selling. They will not make it to the postseason.
So you're saying the Browns, their
8-5.
final 4 games
Yep.
are against the Bears this weekend at home.
Yep.
They go on the road to the Texans.
That's a
They
tough
come
one.
home against the New York Football Jets. Right? And then they play the Bengalis here.
Yep. It will be the final week of the year. Will be winner take all. Winner makes the postseason. Bengals
that'd be
versus
fun.
Browns. and give me Jake the Snake Browning.
That would be fun. Okay, Casey?
Yeah, we talked about that final week being the possibility of it being a winner-take-all situation. I agree with you, Reed. I don't think that Joe Flacco can lead this team to the playoffs. I think there's a reason he's been out of the league for this long. I think you look at the teams that they lost to, and then you look at the team that they beat. Jaguars also lost to a backup quarterback in Jake Browning, 31-34. So I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of faith in that Browns offense. I think it's a little bit fraudy. So
Nice.
Wow.
All right. Let's keep it in the AFC, Tom. Let's keep it in the AFC for the second one.
Okay.
Listen, we talk about history. We talk about things that have happened in the past. And the only thing we've ever seen from Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs is them making the AFC Championship game or better. Buy or sell, the Kansas City Chiefs will not make the AFC Championship.
Am I first again, or are we going to bounce around a little bit?
Well, I'll sell it.
All right, Elliot, you go ahead.
So Kansas City Chiefs will not make the AFC Championship game. I'm going to buy it. Kansas City Chiefs don't look like themselves. The offense, again, Reed's going to bring up the fact that they're top 10 in offense. If you watch the games, you can see that it's just not right.
Eye test. You love the eye test.
I hate the eye test, but I'm looking at their box scores. They score 17 points a game every game. So I think, listen, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now. Patrick Mahomes is the best. Saying that, their receivers have dropped like 37 balls this year. 37. They rank number one. They rank number one in drop passes. Travis Kelce, again, I don't want to bash him, but it seems like he's had a lackluster season. Their defense has been very good, very, very, very good. And when you get to the postseason, having a good defense is maybe the most important thing, maybe. But saying that, there's something not right with the offense. Pacheco's hurt. We'll see if they can fix it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Pacheco, he should be back in a couple weeks. But no, I don't think they're good enough to make it to the AFC Championship game. I don't think they're going to.
Now, you have said multiple times that the AFC is wide open.
It is.
It's wide open.
So
And
they
part of the
could.
reason
They
is-
could.
Yeah, is because Kansas City doesn't look like they used to. But can't they also benefit from that same, like in a
Sure.
league, in a conference where
Sure.
every quarterback's hurt, they've got the best quarterback in the league, and he's healthy. So
Sure, and that's a fair point. I'm just looking at it right now, and I think it's about who's going to get hot right before the postseason. I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be that team.
They're trending the wrong way.
I don't think that's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm selling.
Okay.
I will. Well, you're buying. I am selling
Buying,
because
sorry.
they will make the AFC Championship game because that's all they've ever done. Listen, I talk all the time about coaches and quarterbacks, and they've got the best of each in the league. They've now got a top 5 defense. They're going to be fine. They're going to figure it out. I mean, yeah, there's something wrong there, but they're going to be just fine, and they'll make the AFC Championship game once again. Casey?
yeah, I'm going to sell this because I do think that the Kansas City Chiefs, what we've seen from the history of this team is that they just make it. And I think this will just be another thing that Patrick Mahomes adds to his list of growing accomplishments that he was able to get to the AFC Championship game on the road. So, and that's still not even a guarantee either. He could win that wild card weekend and still get the home playoff games. Like that's how wide open the AFC is already. So, yeah, I'm gonna sell that.
Tom, buying or selling?
You know, just sitting here and looking through some of the stuff while you guys were deciding, I was originally buying. I don't think they're going to make it. But as I sit here and I look at some of this stuff and I say to myself, okay, right now they're the 3 seed. They're only 1 game ahead of Denver for the division lead. Both teams' schedules almost mirror one another. They've got the Raiders, they got the Patriots, they got the Chargers, each of them. The one good team, Kansas City, plays the Bengals. The one good team, Denver plays, and I don't know how good they are, Detroit. They play this weekend. So, and that's on Saturday night, by the way. It's a big game for Bengal fans to watch. But I just sit there and I say to myself, okay, let's just assume for a second that Kansas City, because they win all the tie breaks, they split in the head-to-head with Denver this year, but their division record would be better, their conference record would be better. And so even if they tied, Kansas City would still be more than likely the number 3 seed in the AFC. So that means, right, they'd have their first game at home against, say the Bengals or the Texans or Cleveland, somebody like that. Okay, if they win that game. Well, if they win that game, do I think they can go to Baltimore and win? I do not. Do I think they could go to Miami and win? Or let's say there's an upset and Cleveland beats Miami. I'm just picking a matchup randomly. Then Kansas City would get that game at home. So I was going to originally buy it. Now I'm selling it. I think they make the championship game.
Yep, they've done it.
Hit it. Sell. Okay.
For what it's worth, the Kansas City Chiefs have a 92% chance to win their division. In contrast, the Baltimore Ravens have a lower perceived chance to win the AFC North than the Chiefs do to win the West. 87% chance for
Isn't
the
that
Baltimore.
interesting? I mean, could somebody explain that one to me? Because right now, Kansas City has a 1-game lead, okay? A 1-game lead over – this is shocking to me. They have a 1-game lead over the second-place team. Baltimore has a 2-game lead over the second-place team. And when you start looking at conference record, division record, all those kinds of things, Baltimore is going to have the tiebreak in all those.
Yeah, they're currently tied right now with the Cleveland Browns. So I think if they end up tying overall, I think the Browns would get that tiebreaker. So, I mean, they're both saying that they need to overcome a 2-game deficit because the Broncos can't tie with the Chiefs and still win. They'd have to overtake them. So even though they're 1 game back, they really have to go 2 games over. Same with the Browns, and they're just saying that the Browns.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. Anyway, okay.
All right, we'll keep it rolling. And we'll keep it in the AFC because I like AFC questions. I think the AFC is a lot more interesting than the NFC this year just because of all the injuries and all the different players, all the teams that are involved.
Yeah.
This is, maybe just the easiest question that I'll ask today, but Ravens are the best team in the AFC. We talked about the Kansas City Chiefs. We talked about the Miami Dolphins, and then you could throw in other teams like the Browns, like the Bills, all these other teams. But it's becoming abundantly clear, and you think, Tom, that they're the best team in the NFL, if I believe. So I'll start this off, and it's buying. Everyone talks about the Miami Dolphins because they won a game 70-20. I mean, what are we talking about? They've beaten one team with over a 500 record. And I'll tell you right now, guys, about the Miami Dolphins. If they lose this week, they might be in some trouble to make the postseason in general. Because look at their last 3 games of the year. They might lose every single one of those games. They might go 9-8. So, yeah, I'm going to buy this. Easiest question I'll ask is the Ravens are better. Buy.
There we go.
I am going to buy as well. I think the Ravens are by far the best team in the AFC at this very moment. Kansas City Chiefs, I was high on them. I was high on the Miami Dolphins. God, I was high on them until they unfortunately blew a 14-point lead in the span of 2 minutes to the Tennessee Titans.
Couldn't imagine losing to the Titans.
I couldn't imagine it either, especially, I couldn't even imagine it.
That was sad.
It is sad. I think the Ravens are by far the most complete team as of this moment. I think they look – I know I made the joke that maybe it wasn't a joke that the receivers are dropping passes. I think Zay Flowers has been unbelievable. And they've lost Mark Andrews, too. They're doing this without Mark Andrews now. I think Odell Beckham's okay. I don't think he's a great wide receiver, but I certainly think he's capable of catching big passes in big moments. The Ravens, right now, as of this second, are a top 3 team in the NFL, and I think they're the best team in the AFC by far.
Do I think they're the best team in the AFC? No, but I do think they're the most consistent team, and I think that makes them the best team currently.
Okay.
Who do you think's better?
If I had to pick a team who I think is better, I think it's probably Miami, but they're not consistent at all. They're so up and down. They can't beat a team that is above 500. I think Kansas City, I think they too could probably be better than the Ravens. But like I said, the Ravens are the most consistent team probably in the NFL, which makes them the best team in the AFC. So I guess in that roundabout way, I am saying the Ravens are the best team in the AFC, but I don't think they're the most talented.
I do think that's fair because I think the ceiling of the Chiefs, obviously, the ceiling of the Chiefs is as high as it can go. I do think the ceiling of the Dolphins is as high as it can go.
Right.
I don't think the ceiling of the Ravens is as high as those two teams as of this second.
Right.
Saying that, I do think they're the best team in the AFC by a wide margin because of what you just said, because of the consistency, because they're the most complete team all around right now.
Tom?
Well, I mean, look, to me, there's no doubt Adam number one. That's a buy all the way. They're the best team. I just sit here and I say to myself, hit it, Casey. Buy. I just sit there and listen to you guys and your thoughts about it, and it makes me wonder. If you had to pick an offense throughout the entire game, the ability to run, the ability to throw, all of those things, we've seen Miami put up 70. We've seen the Chiefs through the years. We haven't seen it this year. I mean, we have not seen it. They're averaging now 9 points fewer per game than they did this time a year ago. And then you look at Baltimore. If you had to have a team that got 10 possessions in a game, are you taking Kansas City's offense ahead of Baltimore to go score you points? Right now, the way they're constructed, you're going to take Miami's team right now, the way they're constructed.
I would take Miami.
And what they've done against, let me just finish real quick. And what they've done against teams that were good that they played, Reed pointed out a second ago, they've only beaten one team all year long with a plus 500 record. If you had to go to the post tomorrow, and I'm talking about the way it's set up, let's say that game is in a cold weather town. You're playing in Kansas City. You're playing in Baltimore. You're playing in Cincinnati. Now, Miami, a little bit different. But if you had to take one offense to go to the post, head coach, coordinator, all of it, you taking Miami or Kansas City ahead of Baltimore's offense and Lamar Jackson right now?
Yeah, I don't think. What are you trying to ask? Are they trying to get down there within 2 minutes, or are they is it a 4 minute?
He talked about ceiling. Their ceiling, okay, Baltimore's is maybe not as high as Miami, but you were saying consistency is what they are. What I'm saying is if you had to win a game tomorrow, you had to win the AFC Championship game tomorrow, would you rather have Kansas City on offense, Miami on offense, or Baltimore on offense?
Like I said, I would want consistency.
So you take Baltimore.
In that case, yeah, I would take Baltimore.
Okay.
Like I said, I think Baltimore is the best team because of consistency. But I don't think they're the most talented. So that wasn't the question, though. The question was, are they the best team in the AFC right now? So yes, I'm buying that.
Okay.
But I don't think they're the most talented.
Under that scenario.
The Ravens have scored 30-plus points 6 of their last 7 games. I would take the Ravens offense as of this very second.
Because most people off the top of their head would say Miami. You got all the sex appeal, and
I
you
think
got
Miami would be
Tua, and
second.
you got Tyreek, and you got all this.
Miami would be second for me, and then Kansas City in third.
Okay.
Yeah, I would take Baltimore, Kansas City, Miami third.
Okay. All right. Interesting debate. Okay. What else we got next?
The final question I've got
Final
for
one.
you.
Here we go.
And we do have a mailbag. I found one, by the way.
I'm really glad. Good. I'm very glad. It's been a while.
You checked the
I checked the mail. I went outside and checked the mailbox.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right. Final question. I think this is a fun thing that I've asked before in this buy or sell segment, and I'll continue to ask as long as we do this segment. The NFC is better than the AFC. Buying or selling? Elliot, we'll start with you. Do you think the NFC? Are you buying that the NFC is better than the AFC?
I think and we had this debate yesterday, and this is a good debate. The top of the NFC is better than the top of the AFC. Saying that there are more good teams in the AFC than there are in the NFC. I don't know how you want to calculate that. I don't know what metric you want to use. I'm going to say the Super Bowl champion will come out of the NFC, so I'll say the NFC is better than the AFC. Because I think the top I'm going to buy. I think the top is significantly better than the top of the AFC. But it's close. It's very, very close.
I think if you guys know me, I think you know where I'm going to go with this one. I'm selling this. Listen, I know that the 49ers are probably the best team in the league. I know that the Eagles are a solid team, and I know the Cowboys have been blowing the doors off of everybody. But if you look at the entire conference, there's a chance that the NFC, it's not likely. I mentioned this on the show yesterday. It's not likely, but there's a chance that the NFC has 2 wild card teams get into the postseason with a losing record. There's a chance that the NFC has 3 teams make the postseason with a losing record. And that doesn't take away from what the 49ers are, what the Eagles are, and what the Cowboys are. But if it's the entire conference, it's not close. And if you want to talk about the top of the conference, listen, I said this yesterday. The Dallas Cowboys, who are tied for the best record in the NFC, 10-3, are going into the AFC team currently ranked 11th, seeded 11th, 4 spots out of the playoffs, and they are underdogs. If you look at the records, AFC record against NFC teams, only 3 teams in the AFC have a losing record against NFC teams. So I think all things considered, it's not even really all that close. I think the 49ers are the best team in the league. But behind that, I don't know. I just think the AFC is much, much better. So I am selling this. I do not think the NFC is better than the AFC.
Would you say the AFC is the Big Ten of the NFL? Or the NFC is the Big Ten? No, it would be, so the NFC would be the SEC, AFC would be...
No, you had it right the first time.
Yeah, Big Ten.
I would say the AFC is the SEC.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Casey?
NFC is better than the AFC. Yes. The NFC. No, I'm sorry. The AFC is way better than the NFC, hands down.
Way better.
Way
Nice.
Okay. Way better?
better. Way better. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you just it's simple football math, guys. I mean, just look at the records and the fact that there is a 6-7 team that currently holds a division spot, and that there's 2 other teams in the wild card that hold a playoff spot that are below 500 is all you need to know. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to look at.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking at the numbers. Okay. And I'm saying to myself here, all right, the number 4 spot or the number 3 spot in the AFC belongs to the Kansas City Chiefs. The number 3 spot in the NFC belongs to the Detroit Lions. I think we all agree. You'd bet on Kansas City in that game, though not a slam dunk. Where it starts to get interesting is now when you go after that. The number 4 seed is Jacksonville. The number 4 seed in the NFC is Tampa Bay. Okay, under 500. But when you start talking about 7-6 versus 6-7, which is really the meat of this whole thing in both conferences, okay? What the hell's the difference, 7-6, 6-7? I mean, we're not talking about some world beater because you're 7-6, and you stink because you're 6-7. Okay, it's one game. One game over 13, 14 games played so far.
So
when you look at the and I'm going to take the Browns out because they're 8-5. I'm doing the 6-7 and 7-6 thing here. The Pittsburgh Steelers are terrible. They are the number 6 seed right now in the AFC playoffs. They flat out stink. The Indianapolis Colts we just saw last week. Does anybody in their right mind think that's a playoff team? I mean, come on. Come on. They're in a lightweight division. Then you have the Texans. Okay? Good story, good quarterback. But you got Denver. Okay, now you get into the Bengals and the Bills at 10-11. You're going, oh, now that's pretty big. But the bottom line is neither one of those teams would make the playoffs right now. You go over. Do I really believe what I'm saying in a long-winded way? The Steelers, the Broncos, the Texans. I mean, are they really any better than Minnesota? Are they really any better than Green Bay or the Rams? I mean, the Rams just took Baltimore to overtime over the weekend in Baltimore, right? So, I mean, I want to say the AFC is better because I think when you get down to, the 10-11, for example, in the NFC are the Bengals and the Bills. The 10-11 in the NFC are the Falcons and the Saints. No contest.
Not close.
Yeah. But I don't think it's like many of us thought it would be at the beginning of the season.
Well,
we thought the Bengals were going to be great. The Bills were going to be great. The Jaguars were going to be great. The Chiefs were going to be great. None of those teams are great.
The question doesn't need to be NFC versus AFC. It needs to be the AFC playoff contenders versus the NFC playoff contenders. And if that's the case, then yeah, the NFC playoff contenders far and beyond way better than the AFC.
See, I don't.
But it wasn't the question. I guess that's just looking too deep into this question.
It is, and I took us deep there, and I shouldn't have.
But that is I understand what people are saying though. In terms of playoff, if you're looking at the NFC is way better than the AFC at the current moment.
Can we do a fun thing here and just borrow?
Of course we can.
Tom, just borrow like 2 minutes of your time on this show.
You're not borrowing any of my. It's our time. This is a family unit here.
So we
have kept the nuclear family together here, and we believe in that. We don't believe in the breakup of the nuclear family here on Off the Bench.
That's right.
Please.
Except for Quitter Paul.
That's right. That's true.
Except who, by the way, is in the chat today.
Is he?
He must not be hanging out with Sean Miller. Go ahead.
All right. So here's the thing. So one of the top teams in the NFC is obviously the Dallas Cowboys, and I've been hard on the Dallas Cowboys all year long. And they just won by 20 points over the Philadelphia Eagles at home this Sunday. So maybe it's a bad time to do this. But, Tom, I'm going to run through the Dallas Cowboys schedule.
Okay.
And you tell me if the Bengals would win or lose each time, and we'll figure out what the Bengals' record is.
If the Bengals would win or lose the remaining schedule.
No, I'm saying to this point. So I'm just going to give you this. I'm just going to give you the team. You tell me Bengals win or loss, all right? Week 1 against the Giants. Bengals win or lose?
Win.
All right. Week 2 against the Jets.
Win.
Week 3 against the Cardinals.
Win.
Week 4 against the Patriots.
Win.
Week 5 in San Francisco, a game that the Bengals won.
They won, but I would have picked them to lose.
Okay. So we're 4-1. In LA Chargers.
Dub.
Versus at home against the Rams.
Dub.
Okay. In Philadelphia.
L.
At home against the Giants.
Dub.
On the road against Carolina.
Dub.
At home against Washington.
Dub.
At home against Seattle.
Dub.
At home against the Eagles.
Home. Dub.
Okay, so the Bengals, according to that, would be 11-2.
Yeah.
So I mean, like we can look at the Cowboys and ooh and ah.
But a lot of that has to do with their division. I mean, you just said Washington twice. You said the Giants twice. I mean, it's like that's 4 no-brainers.
They played the Cardinals, the Patriots,
you do that based
Panthers.
on who you play. But all of that is set up years. And the division you're going to play has to do with years in advance and how the rotation works. You can't. There's nothing.
You can't do anything about it. But we would be thinking of the Bengals in a much different light. We'd be thinking of a lot of AFC teams in a much different light if they played the Dallas Cowboys schedule.
Well, there's no
doubt. If the Buffalo Bills played that schedule, they'd be 10-3.
Yeah, you're right.
And we'd be talking about how great the Buffalo Bills are. If the Kansas City Chiefs played that schedule, they'd be 10-3, 11-2, something along those lines, and we'd be talking about how great the Kansas City Chiefs are.
True.
So I'm just saying those things matter.
That's why I'm not this year. I'm not going to allow myself, even though the eye test tells you the 49ers are the best team. The 49ers are capable of playing a poor game. Everybody is, of having an off day. Mm-hmm. I mean, they lost 3 games in a row at one point this season. Now you can say, well, yeah, they had Trent Williams hurt and they had Debo. I get all that. But I'm not going to sit up here today because the Eagles are scuffling, because the Cowboys are rolling against the schedule you just talked about. Right. Now, in fairness, we're going to learn a lot more about Dallas here in the next couple of weeks. They just blasted Philadelphia the other night. They go on the road to Buffalo this week. The meat of their schedule, unlike the Kansas Cities of the world and some of these other teams, the tough part of their schedule is coming up. And we'll learn a lot more about it. They even pointed out in the telecast the other night, I think it was Collinsworth, that said that when they play at home, because of their speed and on that turf and no elements and all that kind of thing, it would strike me as that, it would probably behoove Dallas to somehow, some way, although statistically it's going to be very tough, as we talked about yesterday, for them to get 2 home games minimum in the playoffs. Because they go on the road and you start playing in that crummy weather in Philly or somewhere like that, not good. Okay, Casey, do you have a stink list today?
I do have a stink list.
I can't wait to see this because I was filing away some of the comments you made during this buy or sell. And I'm going to see if those hold true in your stink list. Okay, here we go.
This week's stink list, I didn't get to do one last week, so there's going to be a ton of movement from the ones prior.
Where is that shot taken, by the way?
I think that's just right out back, Tom. But I'm not too sure.
Where?
Right out back. I don't know though. I don't know that for sure. We're going to start this
Chicken
week.
bone?
A chicken bone?
Never mind. Go ahead. Go.
People have been
Oh,
having
I
hard
think
times
you're
with those
right.
bones here in Hamilton.
Anyways, starting off,
It's not nice.
the nauseating column. These are the teams, again, that I just can't stand. Like, they have a chance to do something, except for the Titans. I think I just put them up there because and the Raiders. I just don't want to talk about them. I think they're the most irrelevant teams in the NFL. The Bears, there's a lot to talk about with them, but I think with the way that they're playing, like, they could probably beat all those teams I have on that column right now. The Vikings, I know they're 7-6, but they got Nick Mullins starting at quarterback. I think everyone believes that whoever they go up against, that they should win that ball
Can
game.
the Bears win in Cleveland, yay or nay, on Sunday?
Honestly,
The way they're playing.
I think the Bears have a small chance, but it would require a lot of things to go their way.
Okay,
a lot of things to break their way.
Okay.
Vikings are the 6th seed in the NFC.
Yes, they are.
I don't think that's going to last for very long.
Okay.
I don't think that's
I
gonna
agree
last
with you.
long.
Although I don't know who it's going to last long for, to be honest with you. I mean, Green Bay's in there, which, by the way, okay, go ahead. I'm going to shut up. It's your your show here.
So I have the Broncos leading the stench. I think that if they can win one more game, that they're going to be jumping up a lot more. I just feel like I don't trust them quite yet. A lot of these teams I have up there, I think they have good talent, but I don't trust them. I think the Jets have Super Bowl defense that can win them games. Don't trust their offense.
Okay.
Same thing with the Seahawks. I think I really trusted Geno Smith. He's really let me down this year.
Yes,
He's not even playing anymore.
Yep.
So, I mean, so much for that take I
Yep.
had. The Rams, Matthew Stafford, I really like that offense.
Yes, I do.
But it's very inconsistent.
Yep.
And their defense just has Aaron Donald. Same thing with the Colts. We just played them. I don't know how they actually fare against the top teams in the NFL. Then we move on to the stink. These teams all have a good shot to make the playoffs. They're all playoff worthy
Brownies
teams.
are really moving around now, Casey.
Yeah, the Browns,
They're
they still
moving
stink,
around.
though. They still stink, though. I mean, I liked what I saw with Joe Flacco, but I don't think that continues. I think they're going to eventually fall. I think the Jags are a bit fraudulent. We already talked about that. I thought that they were the mini Bengals, but turns out that they're actually just little kittens.
You're right. They really are.
Houston,
they're baby kittens at the zoo. Baby Jags.
Yeah, little baby,
good word,
little baby Jags.
Yeah, Jags.
Houston, C.J. Stroud. I think he is required to play too much hero ball. He's required to be too good, a lot like Joe Burrow. That puts them down a little bit further down because I thought the roster was a little bit more talented. Turns out it actually is just kind of being carried by C.J. Stroud. Then we got the Steelers and Packers. I might have made this before the Packers lost against the Giants, but I still think that the Packers have a pretty good shot at making the playoffs.
Ugh.
Moving on, the odorless category. These teams, they are going to make it to the playoffs.
Wow.
And I also think that the Bengals have one of the best rosters in the NFL with Jake Browning. Without Joe Burrow, this is still a playoff team.
So
I mean,
let me just ask you a question here now, because if you drop down the line from odorless to stink, did the Browns play the Bengals?
They did, week 1.
Okay, who won
with
that game?
With a hobbled Joe Burrow in the middle of a downpouring
Who won that
rain.
game?
I mean, the Browns did.
Okay,
yeah.
and then the Bengals beat the Jaguars. Who won that game? Was that here? Was that in Houston? Where was that Houston game?
I was here.
Who won that
Cincinnati.
game?
It was a trap game, Tom. They didn't take him seriously.
And then the Steelers, they were here, I think.
That's tough sledding, Tom.
Anyway,
That was
Everybody knows
Browning's
the Steelers
first
come to
game.
town.
Come
It's
on.
tough
sort of
sledding.
struck
Come
me
on,
that
they
the
hadn't
3
figured
teams
out their
behind
offense
them,
yet.
Behind the Bengals, they're a combined they beat Buffalo. They are 2-3 against those teams. Go ahead.
Listen, if the Bengals played the Steelers 10 times,
Well, we're about
how many
to find
times are the
out.
Bengals going to beat the
We're
Steelers?
about to find out next week.
Exactly. That's
All
why
right.
I have the
We'll find
Bengals
out.
above
I'll
all these
believe
teams.
it when I see it.
Okay. Then we have the fresh category. These 3 teams are going to go deep in the playoffs. Now, I really, really was dogging on the Cowboys early on in the season, mainly because I didn't respect Dak Prescott. I'm going to give him a little respect. I'm going to give him a little kudos. I think this has been a career year for him. And that's got to mean something, right? Andy Dalton had a career year. He took a team 12-4. Well, not 12-4. I don't know. I don't remember quite what the record was when he went down, but he was really good. I mean, there was a year where, despite him not being a great quarterback, had a really great season. And I think Dak Prescott is having that right now. I think he deserves to be in the top echelon of NFL right now.
Okay.
And then the 49ers are just the best team in the NFL, hands down. Brock Purdy deserves MVP. There's tons of evidence that suggests that he's not just a dink and dunk quarterback. I would present those if we ever got time to making a Brock Purdy segment on this show. The dude is in the top tier of throwing the football right now. I mean, you take away the screen game, you take away the behind the line of scrimmage throws, and he's still in the top tier in throwing the ball down the field.
Number one as far
number
as yards per attempt.
Yeah, number one.
Number one.
So that leaves us to the bottom of the tier, the bottom of the list. No shocker. Panthers, Cardinals, Patriots, Giants, Washington, and, of course, the Chargers, who just can't seem to win a ball game, lost Justin Herbert. I might have even had them too high on the putrid list. They might need to get knocked down a few pegs because at least the Giants can win a ball game. At least Washington can look a little competitive. Chargers didn't look competitive at all. They look terrible.
Terrible. And Herbert's done for the year. I'm kind of curious. Gosh, what was the question I just wanted to ask you guys real quick? The story out of New England, real quick. That where, Tom Curran, who's been around there a long time, man. I've known this dude 25 years. And when it comes to knowing what's happened with the Patriots, he is on it. Apparently, Bill Belichick was just asked at their press conference a few minutes ago, and he would not talk about anything except for their game this week. But if you weren't with us in the monologue, Tom Curran, Patriots insider, was on Boston NBC affiliate last night, says a decision was made when they had that humiliating loss over in Germany that Robert Kraft, at the end of the year, is letting Bill Belichick go with 1 year left on a contract. Yes or no, do you believe it? Yes or no, do you believe Belichick has a head coaching job with another NFL team next year? Elliot?
I believe he will coach another NFL team. I think he is out with the Patriots. I do believe that. I think Robert Kraft is tired of losing. I think ever since Tom Brady, there has been some blood boiling between Kraft and Belichick. So I think it's over. They had a good run. If they had a quarterback, maybe it'd be a little bit different. But it looks like they have no future, and they're just trying to gut everything.
All right.
Just restart fresh.
Yeah, I think he's gone this year, and I think he'll coach next year. I think that there's already deals in place. I think there's already been conversations. I don't know. That's obviously against the rules, but I think that it's already predetermined where he's going to be next year. I truly believe that.
What team? Because I think he'll also leave the Patriots. I just don't know what team is going to want to. I mean, there's going to be a team that takes him, but what team is it? Is it the Panthers? I mean, they're going to probably get rid of Frank Reich. Is it the Chargers? Like, one of those teams feels like even if he goes there, it's going to be a real scary time for that team because he hasn't really proven that he can.
Yeah, I don't know if
like this year has not been great for him in terms of coaching. So
I don't know where. We'll say that for the offseason.
It's interesting. You look at some of the teams out there that could be in the market for a coach. And
like the Raiders, maybe?
Yes, I mean, some guys are locked up in long-term deals. Some guys are, brand new to their team where you figure they wouldn't run them. Chargers are a team that comes to mind.
Chargers,
where you have a big
Panthers,
time, you have a big-time quarterback.
Raiders, Commanders, Bears.
Commanders.
Yeah, these are all places that.
And they have
I've heard the Commanders name thrown around to where they would give him control of the roster as well.
I don't know if I'd be doing that, but he might be.
It doesn't seem like a good idea, does it, Tom?
It doesn't. I mean, they've made a lot, and they made a lot of mistakes even when they were rolling, letting some guys go, and this guy and everything, and boy, it'd be weird though, man. It'd be really, really weird if all of a sudden no longer Bill Belichick roaming the sidelines in Foxborough. That would be Very, very strange. And somebody else roaming those sidelines in Foxborough. Okay, we're about out of time. We have box lunch coming up, correct?
Yep.
And you are the host today, Elliot?
I am.
Okay, is there any tease you want to give us for something we didn't get into that you're really excited about today?
Well, no, I wouldn't say there's any big. Listen, the Wednesday show is always a little bit slower than the Monday shows, but I'm going to go over some winners and losers in the NFL. I'm going to go over some would you rathers. We're going to go over some funny things.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay. All right.
It'll
Good
be entertaining.
enough. And Casey, you'll be here for that. Reed, you'll be here for that.
Yes.
So that's coming up next. Nothing else tonight, right?
Mac and JT.
Mac and JT.
Oh,
JT.
golly day. Okay, my bad. And what time does that start?
Starts at 7:30.
7:30. Okay, 7:30 tonight. You had Coach's Clicker last night. Great show by Kyle previewing the whole
Fantastic.
Minnesota thing.
Fantastic.
And we'll get into some of that on Friday. I will not be here tomorrow. Is somebody filling in for me tomorrow? Or are we not having a show?
That's going to be a surprise for the guest who's going to we're going to have a show. We're going to have a show. It'll be a surprise who's going to host.
Really?
Yeah, it'll be a little surprise. A little surprise.
Jacob back from college?
Maybe.
Could be.
You have to find out.
Paul coming in. Who knows?
Wow. I'll have to be dialed in. I'll have to see if I can get YouTube or whatever where I'm driving to Bloomington tomorrow. See how that goes. If anybody has anything for me to do to hang out for like an hour or two tomorrow, because my son doesn't want me anywhere in sight because he's studying, allegedly, although he's been in this chat the last 2 days for an exam, let me know.
Yogis.
Well, there are a few places I could hang out. It'd be a little tough then to get home would be the problem. All right, we decided on the cherry on top.
To be.
What was it that we said earlier? We
It
wanted
was going
to
to be my top 5. You want to do that?
Well,
Let's have the top 5.
Yeah.
Let's
We
have
can
the
save it
top
for
5.
tomorrow.
All right.
Let's dive right in. All right, let's run the cherry on top, Casey. And then we'll get right into this top 5.
Okay, go ahead and run it. From our friends at United Dairy Farmers. We appreciate everybody being with us here today. And now, our weekly segment of Reed Mouse's Top 5.
It is my top 5 every Wednesday.
Yes.
This is the highlight of my week. Hopefully, it's the highlight of your guys' week. Listen, we're getting close to the end of the year, so it's time to wrap up what has happened in the world of Cincinnati sports. So we're going to go on a somber note this Wednesday. The somber note is the top 5 most disappointing things, because Casey said it's the most disappointing year in Cincinnati sports history.
Yes.
It is the top 5 most disappointing things to happen to the city of Cincinnati this year. Coming in at number 5, this one's going to hit Casey very hard. It's going to be FCC loses to the Columbus Crew in the MLS semifinals.
Hell is real.
Hell is real.
Hell's real.
Casey was feeling hell when he walked in here on a Monday. Luckily,
Yes,
the
he
Bengals
was.
brought him back to life.
Yes.
And he's all the way back. So that's coming in
I
at
don't know
number
about
5.
all the way, but go ahead.
Now, this is going to be a trigger warning for the Bengals fans in here. But coming in at number 4 was Joe Burrow's injury.
Oh, boy.
Man, Thursday Night Football against the Ravens, kind of a chance to assert the Cincinnati Bengals as still a contender in the National Football League, and Joe Burrow goes down after taking a 10-7 lead, and he won't play for the rest of the year. That was coming in at number 4, and you notice my tone is getting very somber
Yes.
as I talk
Well,
about
it should
these
be.
things. Yeah. Coming in at number 3, it is something that I don't think a lot of people foresaw. I think people thought that this new year, riding the momentum that they've had the past couple years, would just continue into a new conference, and that is UC football. They stubbed their toe in the Big 12. Just a bad year. They get a big-time hire in Coach Satterfield. It really started after they turned down Deion Sanders. Deion was groveling to get the UC Bearcats job, and they said no. They said, we got our guy Sat. And sat right on down, and they didn't play too well this year.
Had a hell of a year with Louisville.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right, Tom.
He was coaching Louisville. He had a great year. All right, coming in at number 2, we're going to keep it right there in Clifton. I don't think a lot of people foresaw this one either. But the University of Cincinnati Bearcats, they lost the Crosstown Show
Oh, boy.
once again.
That hurt.
It is very hard to imagine a team that is maybe the greatest college basketball team that the world has ever seen, losing to Cintas as Xavier Musketeers were coming off a 3-loss stretch. But that's exactly what happened, and it is, just so somber. I feel for all the UC fans out there. But coming in at number 1, I mean, what could top UC losing the crosstown shootout? What could top UC football stubbing their toe? Joe Burrow getting hurt, MLS, and it's the Reds once again missing the postseason. Listen, everyone got so excited. So excited. I mean,
all you
vibes
guys
have never been high. They won 12 games, and some people in this city, some people in this studio were saying it's the greatest feat that the city of Cincinnati has ever done. It was winning 12 straight Major League Baseball games. And they got the hopes up so high, so high, and then just
crash and burn.
Trickled off. They missed the postseason. So that was Reed's top 5, coming in number 1. The Reds missing the postseason.
Oh.
Thanks.
Okay, so you might be onto something.
Might be onto something.
About the worst year.
It's
Those
been
were
tough.
depressing. I mean, we're supposed to, when you get depressed, and let's be honest about it, this time of the year, for a lot of people,
it's tough for a lot of people.
It's a struggle. They think of better days. They think of what they could have done different. Or around the holidays, sometimes you want to be around those people. Quite honestly, a lot of times you don't want to be around them at all.
That's right.
Crazy Uncle Bill, right?
Yep.
Chain smoking Aunt Jane in the corner. The political conversations that come up. I mean, it could be any number. The embarrassing story your dad tells every year about when you were a little kid, right?
Yep.
I mean, all those things happen. And they happen to all of us, okay? I would have 2 suggestions as we say goodbye today and box lunch comes up next. I would say, look, 3 things. Be thankful for everything you have. Because really, compared to most people in the world, right, you probably got it pretty good. So be thankful. Say your prayers, right? Say your prayers, okay? It's good for every part of you. Spirit, mind, body, and soul. And then after you do that, and those 2 things tend to be quiet time. As soon as everybody shows up for the holidays, I would suggest you find your old CD player. Maybe some of you still have the vinyl. Maybe some of you just have the internet in your house. And I would recommend that you put this on to change everything.
Hey, jingity jing, it's Dominic the donkey. Jingity jing, the Italian Christmas donkey. La la
La la la la la la la la la la la la la la.
Santa's got a little friend, his name is
Dominic.
The cutest little donkey, you never see him kick. When Santa visits his paisans with Dominic, he'll be, because the reindeer cannot climb the hills of Italy. Hey! Jingity-jing, it's Dominic the donkey. Jingity-jing, the Italian Christmas donkey. La 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 la. La 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 da.
Another verse. Oh, key change.
Jingle bells around his feet and presents on the sled. Hey, look at the Mayor's Derby on top of Dominic's head. A pair of shoes for Louis and a dress for Josephine. The label on the inside says they're made in Brooklyn. Hey! Jing, it's Dominic the donkey. Jingity-jing, the Italian Christmas donkey. La 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 la.
Oh, silly show.
Children sing and clap their hands and
This is another verse?
It goes on forever.
All right, you get the point. All right, box lunch coming up right now. Here we go.
I must admit, I didn't think much of this show the first time I laid eyes on it. Seemed like a bunch of stiffs wasting nice microphones.